Snow. Whether you like winter or not, snow is the lifeblood of Utah, as it provides us with most of the water we use in our day-to-day lives. Unfortunately, this winter was one of the worst for snowfall in recent memory. In fact, according to snow telemetry data provided by the Natural Resources Conservation Service, this will go on record for one of the worst snow seasons ever in Utah recorded history. This graph measures the snowfall of this year and the average snowfall of every year from 1981 to 2010 at Brighton Resort. At the time of this graph being made, the snowpack was only at 57% of its normal peak. Gary Hoffman, a senior ski patroller at Beaver Mountain Ski Area, tells us how bad this season actually was.
One of the worst. It's definitely in the top three. Typically in late February, March, we get the snow back. This was just low from December all the way to closing day.
With this decrease in snow, Gary says that there seem to be less and less customers this year, which means declining profits for the ski industry.
Saturdays are typically busiest day, and they were maybe half of what a typical Saturday would be on a good snow year. And Sunday, same thing. I mean, really, on the days I particularly skied, it would be half, if not less. When we did get the snow, you'd see the numbers jump up, but I still don't think even to what they should be or what is typical.
More evidence of how low the snow was is represented here. This image, which was provided by Douglas Ramsey of the Remote Sensing and GIS Laboratory at Utah State University's College of Natural Resources, shows a comparison between the snow coverage on January 25th from 2014 to 2015. But that begs the question, what exactly caused this sudden drop in snow levels from year to year? To find out, I went and talked to Jim Steenberg, a professor in the Department of Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Utah.
Well, it was a terrible snow year. It's probably going to be the worst snowfall season ever at Alta, or at least since World War II.
Yeah.
And the big problem there is for most of the winter was we just had this very high amplitude and persistent upper level ridge. Yeah. We call it a blocking pattern, if you want to call it that, that was basically steering all the systems away from Utah and most of the western United States. You know, it's not uncommon for Utah to have a period where high pressure dominates during the winter, say for a couple weeks. That's what produces our inversions and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But this year it was very persistent. I mean, it lasted for a good chunk of the winter. It broke down only occasionally to allow a storm to come through, maybe once a month or so.
This blocking pattern that Professor Steenberg is talking about is the result of a high-pressure ridge sitting on top of Utah. High-pressure and low-pressure systems are the result of uneven heating of the Earth by the sun. High-pressure systems typically, but not always, are associated with nice sunny weather, while low-pressure systems are typically associated with stormier weather. Another factor to consider is the jet stream.
It's like Utah, everything really strongly depends on kind of the jet stream and its behavior. So the jet stream develops because the tropics are heated more than the poles. And that temperature contrast between the tropics and the poles is what drives the jet stream. It fluctuates sometimes from very wavy to more zonal, we call it, which is more kind of west to east flow. And so this year we had a very wavy jet stream, and it set up in a way that the ridge, the high pressure aspect of it, was set up over Utah, and we were extremely dry.
So we know what happened this last winter, and we know the basics of what caused this. But what is going to happen in the future because of this, specifically with concern in the watershed? To answer this, meet Professor Nancy Mesner, a professor of watershed science at the College of Natural Resources at Utah State University. She argues that there probably won't be many shortages this year. However, if we start having more years like this, then we may have to cut back.
Most of our drinking water comes from a deep aquifer. And that aquifer, most water that moves through the ground moves slowly. And so the water that we're drawing on isn't going to be the water that fell in the mountains this year. It was water that fell a number of years ago, and it's slowly working its way through. So in a very short-term sense, just for drinking water, you know, we're probably not in as much, you know, we don't have as much immediate concern 1 year of drought as, say, areas that are dependent on reservoirs filling so that they can treat that water and drink it.
Although the shortage of water from the watershed is not dire this year, the changing nature of where we get our water may affect local wildlife due to the changing temperatures of our streams.
What we do see in a low water year is temperature problems. And so we have very cold water, and the fish that live in these streams, that evolved in these streams, are dependent on cold water. Their whole metabolic system requires water that doesn't exceed 22 degrees centigrade. So warmer temperature makes any ammonia that's in the water more toxic, or results in more toxicity of certain kinds of pollutants. It also results in less oxygen in the water. And so the fish are getting a double whammy with warm water and also less oxygen to breathe. So a lot of the issues are going to be more wildlife and aquatic habitat issues, I think.
In the end, though, regardless if we have a high or low water year, Professor Mesner says we really need to start thinking about how we use water in the West and start conserving for the future.
So we have built our expectations are wrong. We have designed our system on the wrong expectations anyway, probably too much. We thought there was more water than there ever really will be on average in that system and in a lot of the rivers in the West. And so I think that what we need to do, is start getting more creative. You know, we may have to open up some of these compacts. We may have to rethink the allocation of water. Now, you know, lawyers and water rights people can't even imagine that. So, you know, because these are really, really strongly core beliefs that this is, you know, that these allocations cannot be touched. But I'm of the belief that probably those aren't sacred. You know, we probably can, in fact, at least start thinking about that.
For more information about this subject, make sure and check the links below in the description.